The insult came during Sunday dinner, right after my brother Ryan finished explaining why his latest business venture needed immediate funding. "The thing is, Jake," Ryan said confidently, "I need another $50,000 by Wednesday or the whole restaurant deal falls through." Dad nodded approvingly while looking at me with disappointment. "At least your brother has a real career building something meaningful. Not like some people who just exist." I continued eating while the monthly financial planning session began around me. At 28, I'd been the family's designated failure for nearly a decade, ever since I'd chosen my own path instead of joining Dad's accounting firm. "Jake's problem," Mom added, "is that he's never been ambitious. Ryan understands that success requires investment and risk-taking." To them, I was just Jake, the disappointing son who lived modestly, drove an old Honda, and worked some vague job with computers that barely paid bills. While Ryan launched restaurants and opened boutiques, I apparently wasted my potential. "The restaurant space is perfect," Ryan continued. "Prime location, established clientele, just needs capital for renovations." "How much total?" Uncle Mark asked. "With this $50,000, I'll have invested about $200,000 over 6 months. I looked up. $200,000? Where did that money come from? Ryan laughed. "The family investment fund, obviously. You know, the money Dad manages for business ventures." Actually, I didn't know about any family investment fund. Dad's accounting practice was struggling, Mom worked retail, and Uncle Mark had a factory job. "Jake, don't worry about finances you don't understand," Dad said dismissively. "Focus on getting your own career together." My phone buzzed with a message from my CFO, Margaret. "Jake, quarterly family trust distributions are ready for approval. Should I transfer the usual amounts?" "Ryan," I said carefully, "what exactly is this family investment fund?" "The trust account Dad set up for family business investments. We've been using it for years." "And where do you think that money comes from?" Dad looked annoyed. "The family has resources you're not involved in because you chose some dead-end computer job." The irony was perfect. The family resources came entirely from my dead-end computer job, which actually consisted of running a software company generating $8 million annually. My phone rang. Margaret calling. "Excuse me," I said, stepping away. "Jake, I'm reviewing trust distributions. Your family has withdrawn $340,000 this year. Should I prepare quarterly tax documentation? How much do they think is in this fund?" Based on withdrawal patterns, they believe it's family inheritance. They don't understand you're the sole contributor. I returned to find Ryan detailing his next idea. A boutique fitness studio requiring $75,000 startup capital. "The fitness industry is booming," he explained. "This could franchise nationwide within 2 years." "What happened to your other businesses?" I asked. "The consulting firm? The boutique? The catering business?" "Those were learning experiences," Mom said defensively. "Business requires trial and error." "How much trial and error can the investment fund support?" Uncle Mark leaned forward. "The trust account supports family ventures. It's not like we're spending your money." I almost laughed. "What exactly do you think my job is? Computer troubleshooting or something?" "Something like that." Ryan continued his presentation while I calculated real numbers. Over 3 years, my family had withdrawn nearly $800,000 from the trust I'd established, funding 7 failed businesses with 0 return. "This fitness concept has recurring revenue," Ryan said. "Monthly memberships provide steady cash flow. Like your restaurant's recurring revenue? The restaurant is still in development. These projects take time." Dad slammed the table. "Jake, enough negativity. Ryan is building something while you do nothing productive. If my computer job is so unsuccessful, why do you think I could contribute $50,000 to Ryan's project?" "Because family members support each other," Mom said. "Even if your contribution is smaller, every bit helps." "How much do you think I could afford?" Ryan shrugged. "Maybe 5 or 10,000. Whatever you've saved from IT work." They believed I earned maybe $40,000 annually as a technician, while actually generating over $8 million that funded their lifestyle. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Margaret. "Jake, your banker Richard Blackstone is requesting an urgent meeting tomorrow about the family trust restructuring. Should I confirm?" Richard Blackstone was the senior vice president at Continental Bank who handled my business accounts. He'd been warning me for months about the tax implications of my family's withdrawals. What if I told you I could fund Ryan's entire project myself? I said. Dad laughed. Don't make promises you can't keep. Ryan needs real investors, not wishful thinking. What if I told you I've been funding all of Ryan's projects? Complete silence. The doorbell rang. I'll get it, I said, standing up. Through the security monitor, I could see Richard Blackstone standing at the front door in his expensive suit, holding a briefcase. I opened the door to find Richard looking serious and professional. Jake, I apologize for showing up unannounced, but we have some urgent family trust issues that require immediate attention. Richard, what are you doing here? Your CFO called about irregular withdrawal patterns that could trigger federal tax investigations. I need you to review these documents immediately. I glanced back at my family, who were watching curiously from the dining room. Richard, my family doesn't know about the trust structure. They think Dad set up some family investment account. They don't know you're the sole contributor? Jake, they've withdrawn over $800,000 in 3 years from your business accounts. I know. Come in and meet everyone. I led Richard into the dining room where my family sat in stunned silence. Richard Blackstone was well known in the business community. His presence at a family dinner was clearly unexpected. Everyone, this is Richard Blackstone, Senior Vice President at Continental Bank. Richard, this is my family. Richard set his briefcase on the table with authority. Mr. Patterson, I need to discuss some serious issues with the Patterson Family Trust account. Dad looked confused. I'm sorry, but I think there's been some mistake. I manage the Family Investment Fund. Richard opened his briefcase and pulled out official banking documents. According to our records, Jake Patterson is the sole owner and contributor to the Patterson Family Trust. You're listed as an authorized withdrawal recipient. Sole owner. Mom repeated weakly. Richard spread out bank statements showing millions in deposits and hundreds of thousands in family withdrawals. Mr. Patterson's software company, Patterson Development Solutions, has been the exclusive funding source for this trust since its inception. Ryan stared at the documents. Jake has a software company? One of our largest business clients, Richard confirmed. Patterson Development Solutions generates approximately $8 million in annual revenue. Uncle Mark looked stunned. $8 million? Jake, you're a millionaire. Richard continued professionally. The trust has distributed $780,000 to family members over 3 years, funding various business ventures. However, none of these investments have generated returns to the trust. Returns? Dad asked weakly. Business loans typically require repayment with interest. These appear to be gifts, which creates significant tax implications for Mr. Patterson. I looked around the table at my family's shocked faces. Richard, they thought Dad set up some family investment account. They had no idea the money came from my business. Your business? Mom whispered. Richard pulled out more documents. Patterson Development Solutions employs 47 people and has been featured in Forbes magazine as one of the fastest-growing technology companies in the region. He placed press clippings on the table showing my company's achievements and growth statistics. Furthermore, Richard continued, Mr. Patterson has been personally guaranteeing all family business loans through his corporate accounts. Your restaurant, Mr. Ryan Patterson, is secured by your brother's business assets. Ryan looked sick. Jake, I had no idea. Richard's phone buzzed. Excuse me, he said, stepping aside to take the call. The dining room remained silent while my family processed the revelation. Jake, Dad said finally, why didn't you tell us you owned a business? Because you spent 8 years calling me unsuccessful without ever asking what I actually did for work. Richard returned to the table. Mr. Patterson, I have some urgent news. The IRS has flagged the trust for audit due to the large gift amounts. You'll need to restructure immediately or face significant tax penalties. Richard's arrival had exposed everything. Within an hour, my family learned that their poor brother had been secretly funding their entire lifestyle through a multi-million-dollar software company. Jake, Ryan said desperately, can we work something out? The restaurant is almost ready to open. Ryan, you've had 3 years to make your businesses profitable. None of them have generated a single dollar in return. Richard packed his documents. Mr. Patterson, I recommend dissolving the trust immediately. The tax exposure is becoming severe. Do it, I said. Mom started crying. Jake, we had no idea you were supporting everything. We thought the money came from Dad's accounting practice. Mom, Dad's practice barely covers his office rent. Where did you think hundreds of thousands in investment capital was coming from? Dad looked ashamed. Jake, we made terrible assumptions about your career. You made assumptions, period. You never asked about my work or my success. 6 months later, the consequences were clear. Without trust fund support, Ryan's restaurant failed before opening. Dad's accounting practice couldn't afford its lease without the subsidies. Uncle Mark's consulting firm dissolved completely. My software company went public 18 months later, making me worth approximately $47 million. The family attended the IPO celebration, finally understanding the success they'd dismissed for years. But their newfound respect felt hollow, based on stock prices rather than understanding of who I'd always been. I never re-established any family financial support. Instead, I focused company profits on employee ownership programs and technology education charities. When Ryan eventually found legitimate investors for a smaller restaurant, he called to invite me to the opening. Jake, I want you to know, I understand now how wrong we were. Ryan, you weren't wrong about my career. You were wrong about assuming you knew anything about my career. The family that called me the poor one, while spending my millions, learned too late that their entire lifestyle had been subsidized by the person they'd dismissed. Richard Blackstone became my permanent financial advisor, helping structure legitimate family gifts that didn't create tax problems or enable continued business failures. Sometimes the people who fund your lifestyle are the same people you assume are unsuccessful. Sometimes the family member you call poor is actually the only one generating real wealth. Their lifestyle needed my millions more than I needed their respect.